The laboratory was silent except for the low hum of machines that never slept. Rows of glass chambers stood like tall pillars, each one holding a still human figure inside. The light from above reflected on the smooth surface of the glass, giving the room an endless metallic shine. The air was cold, heavy, and carried the faint sound of mechanical breathing from the stasis units. Inside one chamber, a young human named Ryan lay with closed eyes. To the guards and scientists passing through the room, he looked like all the others, frozen, helpless, and unaware of the world around him. But deep inside, Ryan was awake. His heart beat slow but steady, his lungs held back every breath, and his mind was alert. He knew he could not move, not even an inch, or his secret would be discovered. He remembered nothing of how he had been captured. Fragments of his past flashed in his mind like broken mirrors. A forest filled with tall green trees, a small village with firelight at night, his family's voices. Then came the shadow of strange ships, a sky cut open by blinding lights, and the sound of silence as he was taken away. Since then, only darkness and the cold glass of the chamber remained. The only reason Ryan was not lost like the others was because of Nira. She was not like the guards who moved with heavy steps or the scientists who stared at humans as if they were tools. Nira was different. She worked among them, yet she carried a hidden purpose in her heart. To the others she was just another worker in the laboratory, but secretly she belonged to a small group of aliens who believed humans must not be destroyed. When she first stood near Ryan's chamber, he thought she was only another observer. Her tall form and strange blue eyes gave no sign of kindness. But one day, as the guards left the room, she leaned close to the glass and whispered, her voice almost trembling, "Don't breathe, they still think you're frozen." At first Ryan thought it was a dream, a trick of his tired mind. But her eyes told him she was speaking the truth. That was the first time he realized he was not completely alone. Nira had done something dangerous. She had hidden his DNA from the scanners that checked the chambers. Every human body was recorded and studied by the ruling council, but Ryan's body no longer appeared in their system. She had taken a great risk by altering his blood and skin at the smallest level, masking him from their machines. To the council, he was only another frozen figure with no life inside. To Nira, he was the seed of a plan that could grow into something greater. Ryan listened to her words in silence. He dared not move, but inside his chest his heart pounded faster. He felt both fear and hope rising together. Why had she saved him and not the others? He looked around at the frozen faces beside him, their bodies trapped in endless sleep. He wanted to cry out, to break the glass and shake them awake, but he could not even open his lips. All he could do was wait. Every day the guards walked through the room. They carried weapons that glowed with harsh light, and their armor made them look more like machines than living beings. They never spoke to the humans. To them, humans were nothing but silent resources, a kind of fuel for experiments the council had planned. Their heavy steps echoed through the hall, and each time they passed, Ryan kept his chest still, pretending he was lifeless. Nira moved carefully among them. She checked readings, pressed buttons, and gave reports as if she cared only for her work. But whenever she found a moment, her eyes would flicker to Ryan's chamber. Her glance carried a message: wait, be patient, survive. Ryan's mind became sharper with each passing day. He learned to slow his breathing so much that his chest hardly moved at all. He counted the footsteps of the guards, memorized the sound of each machine, and trained himself to remain still no matter what. It was not just his willpower, he felt something inside his body had changed. The air in his lungs lasted longer, his heart could slow down like a quiet drum, and his skin no longer burned from the cold of the chamber. He began to realize that Nira's work on his DNA was more than just hiding him from scanners. She had given him a chance to survive in a way no other human could. Still, the weight of fear pressed on him every moment. If even one guard noticed his eyes moving or a single breath of fog against the glass, the alarm would rise, and he would be dragged away. The thought of that kept his body frozen, but his mind kept asking one question: when would Nira free him? One night, the laboratory grew quieter than usual. The lights above dimmed, and the guards stood restless, speaking in low voices. Something was happening outside, something that even they did not understand. Ryan felt the change in the air. His chest ached to draw a full breath, but he forced himself to wait. Then, through the silence, Nira appeared. She walked slowly as if she belonged there, but her steps carried a hidden urgency. She paused at his chamber and whispered again, her words sharp and soft at once. "Hold on. The time is close." Ryan's eyes remained closed, but inside he felt a fire spark. For the first time in what felt like years, he believed freedom was not just a dream. The machines hummed around him, the guards muttered in confusion, and Nira's whisper stayed in his mind like a secret flame. The awakening had begun. The laboratory continued to hum with endless life, but for Ryan, every sound carried meaning. He had learned to tell the difference between the steps of a guard and the softer walk of Nira. He could hear the sharp clicks of machines being checked and the steady rhythm of the stasis chambers. Time had no clear shape inside the lab, but he counted every moment by these small sounds. Nira came often, though she never stayed long. She acted like any other worker, moving from one control panel to another. The guards barely noticed her, and when they did, they saw only a quiet scientist doing her duty. Yet Ryan felt the difference. Every time she passed near him, her eyes gave a signal that only he seemed to understand. She wanted him to wait, to stay alive until the right moment arrived. One day, the guards left the chamber hall earlier than usual. The room grew still, the lights low and soft. Nira stood close to Ryan's chamber. She looked around once, making sure no one was watching, then leaned near the glass. Her voice was low, no louder than the hum of the machines. "You are not like the others. I changed you. They cannot see you in their scans," she whispered. Ryan's heart leaped inside his chest. He had guessed much of this already, but hearing it confirmed made his body tremble with both fear and hope. He dared not move, not even open his eyes, but inside his mind her words burned bright. "They believe you are frozen, just like the rest," Nira continued. "But your body is different now. You can stay still longer than any human should. That is why I chose you. If they ever find out, both of us will be destroyed." Her words settled heavily in Ryan's mind. He wanted to ask her why she risked so much for him. Why not choose someone else? Why not save more than one person? But he could not speak, and even if he could, she did not expect an answer. She only needed him to listen. Nira stepped back as the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the hall. A group of guards entered, their armor clattering against the floor. She turned to her console, tapping on glowing panels with calm precision. Ryan forced his body to remain still as the guards scanned the chambers. When they reached his, the screen showed nothing unusual. To them, he was only another frozen body. After the guards left, Ryan thought about her words. She had changed him, hidden him, and now she waited for the right time to act. But what was her plan? Why was she helping him at all? He looked at the rows of silent humans trapped around him and felt a heavy weight in his chest. If he escaped, What would happen to them? Would they be left behind forever? The next time Nira returned, she carried a small device hidden beneath her cloak. She pretended to check the readings of the chamber while slipping the device against the base. She spoke softly, her voice blending with the noise of the machines. This will unlock the seal when the time comes. Do not move until I tell you. If you breathe before then, they will see you. You must trust me. Ryan's chest tightened. He wanted to trust her, but fear gnawed at him. Could this be a trap? Maybe she was testing him. But then he remembered her eyes. They had never carried the cold emptiness of the guards. They carried something else, something he remembered from his village long ago: kindness. Days passed, and Ryan grew more aware of his changed body. Hunger never clawed at him the way it once had. His chest could hold air for long stretches without pain. His skin did not sting from the frost of the chamber as it had in the beginning. Something inside him had truly changed, something that was no longer entirely human. He feared this at first, but then he realized it might be the only reason he was still alive. Nira visited again when the hall was empty. Her movements were quick and careful. She leaned close, her eyes sharp and her voice tense. The council will soon begin the transfer. They want to use humans for a weapon, a source of energy that will feed their armies. They will drain the life from every one of you until nothing remains. I cannot stop them alone. You must live, because you can resist what they cannot predict. That is why I hid your DNA. You are the first step. The weight of her words struck Ryan like a stone. His people were nothing more than fuel to the council. He thought of the frozen faces around him and felt anger building in his chest. But he also felt the rising spark of hope. If Nero was right, then maybe he could be more than a hidden figure in a glass box. Maybe he could fight. Nira touched the side of the chamber as if sealing her promise. The time is close. Wait for the lights to fall. I will be there. Do not fail, or everything ends here. Then she turned away, her cloak flowing behind her as she vanished into the shadows of the hall. The guards returned a moment later, never suspecting that a plan was already moving beneath their watchful eyes. Ryan lay still, but inside his heart beat faster than ever. He now knew why she had saved him, and he knew what was at stake. The thought of freedom no longer felt like a dream. It felt like a storm waiting to break. The chamber hall was quiet, filled only with the steady hum of machines. Ryan lay as still as ever, but inside his mind every sound felt sharp. He had been waiting for the moment Nira had promised. Her words stayed in his thoughts like a constant flame: wait for the lights to fall. That night, something changed. The lights above flickered, then dimmed until the room glowed only with the faint blue of the stasis tubes. The guards shifted uneasily, speaking in low voices. Outside, alarms echoed far in the distance, though no one in the hall seemed to understand why. Ryan's heart began to pound. This was the moment. The doors opened, and Nira entered with quick, steady steps. She carried a small case, her cloak brushing the floor. To the guards, she appeared calm, another scientist checking the systems. But when her eyes met Ryan's chamber, he knew she was ready. She approached the control panel at the side of his glass tube. Her hands moved swiftly, tapping codes and sliding the hidden device she had placed earlier into the system. For a second the glass trembled, then a sharp hiss filled the air. The seal at the base cracked open. The chamber door slid upward, and cold air rushed out. Ryan's lungs ached to breathe, but he held still until she whispered, "Now." He pulled in his first full breath in what felt like years. The air burned, sharp and heavy, but it filled him with new strength. His legs shook as he stepped out, every muscle stiff from long stillness. Nira caught his arm and steadied him. "Stay close," she whispered. "Do not speak." They moved quickly toward the shadows at the edge of the hall. The guards were distracted, speaking into their devices about the alarms outside. None of them noticed the silent figure slipping between the machines. Ryan's senses felt sharper than before. He could hear the faint buzz of energy running through the walls, feel the cold vibration beneath the floor. When Nero led him toward a hidden door at the far side, he sensed the right path even before she opened it. His altered body seemed to know the rhythm of the place. The hidden door slid open, and they entered a narrow passage. The walls were damp, and the light was faint, but the air felt different. It carried the smell of stone and dust, not metal and frost. "These tunnels run beneath the laboratory," Nira said softly as they moved. "Few know of them. They were built long ago, before the council sealed this place." Ryan followed, his steps unsteady but growing stronger. Each step made his chest feel freer. For the first time, he was not behind glass. They passed several chambers filled with more stasis units. Frozen humans stood in silent rows, their faces pale and still. Ryan stopped, his heart aching at the sight. He wanted to open them, to wake them as Nira had woken him. "We cannot save them now," Nira whispered firmly. "If we try, we will all be caught. To save them, you must live first." Her words cut deep, but Ryan forced himself to follow. He promised silently that he would return for them. The tunnel grew wider, and the sound of rushing water echoed in the distance. The floor sloped downward until they reached an underground stream that glowed faintly with alien light. Nira guided him along a narrow bridge of stone. The sound of the water covered their steps, but it also carried danger. Voices echoed behind them. The guards had discovered the open chamber. "They know," Ryan whispered. "Yes," Nira said, her tone calm but sharp. "We must move faster." The passage opened into a larger chamber with tall walls carved by both stone and machine. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the surface, as if the place was older than the laboratory above. Ryan felt a strange pull from the walls, like an energy that spoke to him. His body seemed to hum in answer. He stopped, his hand brushing the stone. A spark of warmth passed through his skin. For a moment he saw a vision: humans standing strong, not frozen, but free. The image was brief, gone as quickly as it came, but it left him shaken. Nira saw his reaction. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she did not question him. Instead, she pushed forward. "We are close. The way leads deeper, to a place they have forgotten." Behind them, the sound of armored steps grew louder. Lights flickered at the end of the passage. The guards were following fast. Ryan's new senses guided him. He felt the energy of the old chamber, its walls alive with hidden power. He touched the stone again and found a seam, a line that opened when pressed. A hidden door slid aside, revealing another dark corridor. "How did you know?" Nira asked, surprise in her voice. "I felt it," Ryan said. She gave him a quick nod. "Then it has already begun." They stepped into the dark corridor, the stone door closing behind them. The noise of the guards faded, but the danger was not gone. They were deep in tunnels unknown to most, hunted by soldiers who would never stop searching. Ryan breathed fully again, his chest strong and steady. He was free from the chamber, but the weight of what lay ahead pressed harder than the glass ever had. He looked at Nira, who moved with steady purpose through the dark. She had risked everything for him. The plan she carried was bigger than he yet understood, but he knew one thing. He was no longer a hidden figure waiting in silence. He was part of something greater. The silent escape had begun, but the true fight was only just ahead. The hidden corridor stretched on in silence, but both Ryan and Nira knew the peace would not last. The sound of guards echoed faintly behind the stone door they had closed. Even though the voices were far, the heavy steps carried promise of danger. Nira walked ahead with sharp focus, her cloak brushing the ground. Ryan followed close, breathing steady as his strength returned. The air here was warmer than the frozen chamber, yet heavy with dust and age. The tunnel walls glowed with faint lines, marks left by hands long gone. Ryan's eyes traced them as they moved. He could feel something stirring inside him. The marks on the wall seemed to hum against his senses. He had never felt such a thing before his capture, but now every step made him more aware of the hidden energy beneath the stone. It guided him, like a voice without words. Nira noticed his gaze. "You feel it, don't you?" "Yes," Ryan answered softly. "It is like the walls are alive." She gave a quick nod. "That is why I chose you. The change in your body was not only to hide you. It allows you to sense what others cannot. You are beginning to understand." Before Ryan could ask more, a deep sound shook the tunnel. The stone door they had passed through earlier had been forced open. The guards had found their path. Their voices rang out, harsh and commanding. The chase had begun. Nira pulled Ryan's arm and quickened her pace. "We must keep moving. They know we are here." The tunnel opened into a wide bridge of metal stretching across a deep hollow. Below lay a vast pit, filled with machinery that pulsed with blue light. The sight made Ryan pause. The machines moved with a slow rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. "This is one of their power wells," Nira explained quickly. "Energy drawn from the core of this world. Do not fall, or the machines will tear you apart." Ryan swallowed hard and followed her across the bridge. Their footsteps echoed sharply, each sound too loud in the vast hollow. Behind them, the clatter of armored boots grew closer. The guards were not far. Halfway across the bridge, beams of light shot forward from the far side. The guards had reached the edge of the pit and were raising their weapons. Bolts of energy struck the metal, sparking bright fire. Ryan ducked low. His body moved faster than he expected, as if his new senses guided him before he even thought. He pulled Nira down with him just as another bolt sizzled overhead. "We cannot outrun them like this," Ryan said. "You must use your gift," Nira replied. "Trust what you feel." Ryan closed his eyes for a brief moment, letting the hum of the machines below flow through him. He felt the energy in the bridge, in the walls, even in the weapons of the guards. A path of motion unfolded in his mind. When the next bolt fired, he stepped aside at the perfect instant, letting it strike harmlessly against the railing. His heart raced with both fear and wonder. He had never moved like this before, but it felt natural, as if the change inside him had awakened an instinct that had always been there. "Keep going," Nira urged. They ran across the rest of the bridge, weaving between bursts of light. At the far end, Nira touched a hidden panel. A door slid open, and they rushed inside. The heavy metal sealed behind them just as more energy bolts struck the bridge. The new passage sloped upward. The air grew warmer, and the hum of the machines below faded. But the sound of pursuit did not vanish. The guards were already forcing open the sealed door. "They will never stop," Ryan said, his voice steady but low. "They cannot," Nira replied. "If you escape, their council's secret will be broken." That is why they will chase us until we are gone or dead. Ryan clenched his fists. Then we do not let them win. The passage narrowed, forcing them to move single file. The walls here were rough stone, not smooth metal. Strange carvings marked the surface, older than the machines they had left behind. Ryan touched one as they passed, and again that spark of warmth filled him. This place is ancient, Nira explained. Long before the council, there was a war here. Humans once stood against them, stronger than anyone believed. That is why they fear you. The words struck deep in Ryan's heart. He wanted to ask more, but the sound of heavy boots grew louder. The guards were close again. The passage opened into a vast chamber with high arches of stone. Shafts of faint light shone from above, showing a hidden path that rose along the wall. Nero pointed. Up there. Hurry. They began the climb. The stone steps were narrow and uneven, but Ryan's body carried him upward with surprising ease. His legs felt light, as though the energy of the place lifted him. Halfway up, a blast shook the chamber. The guards had arrived. Their weapons flashed bright as they fired toward the steps. Stone cracked and dust filled the air. Ryan pulled Nira close and pressed her against the wall. He closed his eyes again, letting the hum of energy guide him. He sensed the pattern of the blasts, the rhythm of the shots. Moving at the exact moment, he shielded her as bolts struck harmlessly around them. Together they reached the top of the steps, where another passage waited. Nira sealed the entrance behind them, but both knew it would not hold for long. Breathing hard, Ryan looked back once more. He no longer felt like a helpless figure in a glass tube. His body carried strength he had never known, and his heart carried a fire that grew with each step. The chase was far from over, but he was no longer running only for himself. He was running for all the frozen faces he had left behind. And he would not stop. The passage grew darker as Ryan and Nero moved deeper into the stone path. The echoes of pursuit faded behind them, though both knew the guards would not stop searching. The tunnel turned and twisted until it opened into a vast space hidden far beneath the city above. The chamber was unlike anything Ryan had seen before. High stone walls curved upward into a dome, marked with glowing symbols that seemed alive. The air felt heavy but warm, carrying a faint hum that stirred the skin. In the center stood a wide platform surrounded by tall pillars of crystal. The crystals shone faintly, their light pulsing in rhythm like a heartbeat. Ryan stepped forward slowly, his eyes wide. He felt the energy of the place pressing into his chest. His body trembled, not from fear but from recognition. Somehow this chamber felt familiar, though he knew he had never been here before. Nero watched his reaction closely. This is the place I wanted to bring you to. It is older than the laboratory, older than the council, older even than the empire itself. This chamber was built by those who fought before us. Humans? Ryan asked, his voice steady. Yes, Nero said, her tone carrying both pride and sorrow. Long ago, humans stood against the council. They were not weak. They were not fuel or tools. They nearly won. This place holds the last memory of their strength. Ryan's chest tightened. He looked at the frozen faces he had left behind in the laboratory and thought of what Nero was saying. His people had once fought with power that could challenge the empire, yet now they were trapped in glass tubes, waiting to be drained. The thought filled him with both anger and hope. He moved closer to the platform. The crystals pulsed brighter as he approached, as if answering his presence. When he placed his hand on one, a surge of warmth ran through his body. Images flashed in his mind: humans standing with weapons of light, cities rising against the council, voices calling out in unity. The vision was brief, but it left him shaking. "What did you see?" Nira asked. "They fought," Ryan said softly. "They fought with everything they had." Nira stepped closer, her voice firm. "The council erased those memories. They wanted humans to be seen as weak, so that no one would believe in their strength again. But fragments of that history remain. And you carry a piece of it inside you. That is why I changed your DNA. Not only to hide you, but to awaken what has been forgotten." Ryan turned to her, confusion and fire mixing in his eyes. "Why me?" "Because you endured," Nira said. "When I saw you in that chamber, your body did not fail like the others. You held on longer than any human I had studied. You were strong before I ever touched your DNA. I only gave shape to what was already there." Ryan's fists tightened at his sides. "If this strength is real, then I cannot be the only one. There must be a way to give it to the others." Nero looked at him with quiet intensity. "There is. This chamber holds the code of resistance. It was made to awaken those who were taken. The crystals store a signal that can stir the blood of humans, unlocking the same strength you feel now. But it requires a key, and that key lies within you." Ryan stared at the glowing pillars. The idea filled him with both fear and purpose. He had wanted freedom for himself, but now he saw something greater. If what Nira said was true, then he carried the chance to wake not just one, but all of them. Before he could speak, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the dome above. The sound of heavy boots echoed from the tunnel they had entered. The guards had found the path. Nira moved quickly, placing her hands on one of the crystals. It glowed brighter, and symbols on the walls flared to life. "We do not have much time. You must learn what this place holds before they break through." Ryan touched the central platform. The warmth became a burning fire in his chest. His vision blurred as waves of images flooded his mind. Wars fought in skies, humans chained but rising again, voices declaring freedom even as they fell. The energy surged until he cried out, his body trembling with the weight of it. Then it ended, leaving him gasping. His hands glowed faintly with light, the same rhythm as the crystals. "You see now," Nira said, her eyes fixed on him. "You are not only a survivor. You are the key to waking them all. That is why we must reach the heart of this chamber. Only then can the code spread." The heavy thud of weapons struck the sealed stone door. The guards were close, their shouts filling the tunnels. Ryan steadied his breath, the fire still alive inside him. He no longer felt like the boy who had lain frozen in a glass tube. He looked at Nira, his voice firm. "Then we stand and fight until the code is free." Nira nodded. Her eyes, usually calm, now burned with the same fire. "Yes. Together." The chamber walls glowed brighter, as if answering their resolve. The secret hidden for ages was awake again, and though the guards were moments away, Ryan felt no fear. He felt ready. The secret chamber had chosen him, and the fight for his people was about to begin. The chamber walls glowed brighter with every breath Ryan took. The crystals pulsed in time with his heartbeat, as if the place itself had awakened to his presence. Nira stood at his side, her eyes fixed on the sealed stone door. The pounding grew louder, heavy blows shaking the walls. The guards were forcing their way in. "They will not stop," Nira said quietly. "When they enter, they will throw everything at us." Ryan's hand tightened around the edge of the platform. His chest still burned with the fire he had drawn from the crystals. He felt strong, stronger than ever before, but he also knew there were limits. He looked at the frozen faces that haunted his memory, the rows of silent humans trapped in glass above. He thought of them now and knew he could not fail. "We fight," he said firmly. Nira nodded once, her cloak shifting as she reached for a hidden blade at her side. "Then we fight." The stone door cracked, a beam of harsh light spilling into the chamber. A voice shouted from the other side, commanding the soldiers to break through. Moments later, the door split open and armored figures stormed inside. Their weapons glowed, casting sharp beams across the chamber. Ryan felt the hum of their weapons before they fired. The energy of the room flowed through him, guiding his movements. When the first blast cut across the air, he stepped aside at the exact moment, the bolt striking the wall harmlessly. He raised his hand without thinking, and a surge of light flared from his palm, striking one of the soldiers. The figure fell back, armor smoking. Shock rippled through Ryan. He had not known he could do that. The energy inside him was more than strength, it was a weapon. "Use it," Nira urged, her blade flashing as she leapt at another guard. She moved with speed and skill, her strikes sharp and precise. The clash of her blade against metal filled the chamber. Ryan focused on the rhythm of the fight. Each guard carried a weapon that hummed with power, but he could sense their patterns, their timing. He dodged one strike, then another, his body moving as if the chamber itself was guiding him. With each motion he grew faster, each strike of light from his hand hitting its mark. Still, more soldiers poured in. The chamber shook with their shouts and the fire of their weapons. Nira fought fiercely, but even she could not hold them all back. Ryan knew they would be overrun if he did not act. He placed both hands on the central platform. The crystals blazed, flooding the chamber with bright light. Energy surged through him, hotter than fire, sharper than any blade. He felt the walls respond, the ancient power rising. A wave of light burst outward, knocking soldiers from their feet. Their weapons fell silent, their armor sparking as they hit the ground. But the surge drained him. Ryan fell to one knee, gasping for breath. His vision blurred, and the fire in his chest flickered. Nira caught his arm, pulling him back to his feet. "You cannot hold it too long. Use it carefully, or it will burn you from inside." Ryan nodded, his breath heavy. He steadied himself and faced the next wave of soldiers storming into the chamber. His fear was gone now. He no longer thought of himself as helpless. He was the key, and if this was his last stand, he would make it count. The fight raged on. Bolts of energy lit the chamber, striking against stone and crystal. Ryan dodged and countered, his hands glowing with power. Nira's blade carved through the air with unbroken speed. Together they fought back against the tide, holding the platform at the chamber's heart. At last the soldiers paused, forming a wall at the entrance. From behind them, a tall figure stepped forward. His armor shone brighter than the others, and his weapon hummed with a deeper pitch. His voice was cold and commanding. "You should not exist," he said, his eyes fixed on Ryan. "Your kind is weak. Yet you carry something forbidden. You will give it up, or you will die here." Ryan felt the fire inside him flare again. His voice rang clear. "Humans are not weak. You fear us because you know the truth." The commander raised his weapon, and the chamber shook with the force of his attack. Ryan raised both hands, the light bursting from him in answer. The two forces clashed in the center of the chamber, sending waves of heat and sound across the walls. Dust rained from the ceiling, and cracks spread through the stone. Nira stood at Ryan's side, her blade raised. She struck when the commander's guard faltered, driving him back. The combined force of her strike and Ryan's light sent the commander crashing into the wall. His armor sparked and broke, and he fell still. The remaining soldiers hesitated. Their leader was down, and the chamber glowed with a power they could not understand. One by one, they stepped back. Ryan stood tall, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. He knew this was not the end. More would come, stronger than these. But for now, they had won. The chamber lights dimmed again, but the fire inside Ryan did not fade. He looked at Nira, and she met his gaze with steady eyes. "The path ahead will not be easy," she said. "I know," Ryan answered. "But I am ready." Together they stood at the heart of the glowing chamber, the shadows of fallen soldiers around them. The last stand in the shadows was over, but a greater battle was waiting just beyond. The chamber was silent except for the faint hum of the crystals and the sound of Ryan's breathing. Dust drifted through the air where cracks had formed in the ceiling. The fallen commander lay still against the wall, and the soldiers who had survived fled back into the tunnels, unwilling to face the power they had witnessed. Ryan stood at the center of the platform, his chest heavy with exhaustion but alive with fire. The glow from his hands faded slowly, leaving behind a faint warmth under his skin. He knew the battle was not finished. The council would send more. Stronger forces would soon arrive. Nira placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "We cannot stay here. The chamber has given you its gift, but we must decide what to do with it before they return." Ryan looked at the glowing crystals. Their rhythm was softer now, almost like a heartbeat waiting for him to act. He remembered what Nira had told him: this place could awaken others, could stir the strength in all humans, not just himself. He thought of the frozen rows above, his people locked in glass prisons, and he felt his resolve harden. "They will not remain prisoners," he said firmly. "If I can wake them, then I will. I will not fight alone." Nira's eyes softened, and for the first time her expression carried hope rather than sorrow. "Then we must finish what was started long ago." Together they approached the central platform again. Nira guided his hands onto the smooth stone, her own hands placed beside his. The crystals blazed once more, filling the chamber with light so bright it seemed to pierce the earth itself. Ryan closed his eyes. The fire inside him rose, but this time he did not fight it. He let it flow outward, reaching for the frozen chambers above. In his mind he saw the faces of humans locked in glass. One by one, he touched them with the spark inside him. Their eyes flickered, their chests moved, their stillness began to break. The vision spread further, beyond the laboratory, into other hidden vaults across the empire. He felt the bonds of sleep weakening. He felt the strength of thousands stirring. The hum of the crystals turned into a roar, shaking the chamber walls. Then the light burst outward in a wave, rushing up through the tunnels, past the broken door, and far beyond. For a moment, the whole city above glowed with a strange brilliance. When the light faded, Ryan fell to his knees, drained but alive. He gasped for air, his body trembling, but inside he knew what he had done. "They are awake," Nira whispered, her voice filled with awe. Ryan lifted his head slowly. In the distance, faint sounds echoed through the tunnels: shouts, crashes, the pounding of feet. But these were not guards. These were human voices, angry and alive. The first of them appeared at the doorway moments later, their glass prisons broken, their eyes burning with the same fire Ryan now carried. They looked at him, and in their faces he saw recognition, as if they understood who had called them back. One stepped forward, a tall man with scars on his arms. His voice was rough but steady. "You woke us. Tell us what we must do." Ryan rose to his feet. He was tired, but he stood tall. The fire inside him burned steady now, no longer wild. "We fight," he said. "We fight until no human is chained again." A murmur of voices filled the chamber, rising into a roar of agreement. The awakened humans formed a circle around him and Nira, their strength growing with each breath. Above them, the city stirred in panic. The council would soon unleash its armies, but this time they would not face a few. They would face thousands who had tasted freedom again. Nero looked at Ryan, her eyes shining. "This is the beginning. They will remember this day." Ryan nodded. He knew there would be many battles ahead. He knew the council's power was vast, and their wrath would be great. But he also knew he was no longer alone. He had seen humans rise once in visions of the past, and now he was watching it with his own eyes. The chamber lights dimmed, their duty fulfilled, but the fire in the hearts of those gathered burned brighter than ever. Ryan felt it spread through them like a flame passing from torch to torch. He raised his hand high, the glow returning faintly to his palm. The light was small, but in the reflection of so many eyes it looked endless. "This is our time," he said. "We are not frozen. We are not fuel. We are not weak. We are human, and we rise." The chamber shook again, but this time it was not from enemy weapons. It was from the roar of awakened voices, echoing through the stone and up into the world above. The sound carried like thunder, a promise of the storm to come. And so the flame of humanity, hidden for generations, rose once more.